What is up, guys? Tonight on Project RX-8, we are going to be changing my mid-pipe yet again. Let's talk a little bit why we're going to be doing that. So, originally, for those of you who've been tuning in for the entire Project RX-8 build, I had put this mid-pipe on the car. I don't know who makes it. I believe it's just a generic eBay mid-pipe. It has some sort of a resonator built in right here. And the reason why we are going to be changing this out yet again is because I thought I had a leak the other day. I heard something. I thought it was this gasket because it was coming from this area when I had it up on the lift, but I was staring at it kind of from this angle. Changed the gasket out, it was still leaking. Further inspection revealed, if you could see underneath this hanger right here, there is a rip in the mid-pipe. The hanger is coming off, so the mid-pipe shot. The other reason why I ran this is because I had picked up that silver RX-8 parts car, which I ended up selling to a friend, but it did come with some spare parts, one of them being this mid-pipe, and I wanted to run this one for two reasons. The first reason being is because you can see here it has an O2 sensor spacer. So if you remove the secondary O2 sensor, your primary is in your exhaust manifold after your final merge collector from the header. The secondary O2 sensor's job is mostly to check the flow of the catalytic converter. So if the cat starts to clog, or if you delete the cat, this guy will harp and throw a check engine light. This is a wideband O2 sensor. The car does use some of its tune at idle and off throttle and lower RPM off of the O2 sensor before it goes into the program tune of the car. So I've read that cell spacers do not work on the RX-8, and I wanted to try this just because I was curious. At first, I did throw a check engine light, but it actually went away and it never came back. So I think it does kind of work. I don't know if a lot of people who ran cell spacers and said that they didn't work just said that because they threw the check engine light and immediately thought that that was it. I was just lazy and I wasn't due for a mission, so I left it in here, and then the light went away and the codes went away, never came back. So for those of you who are in that situation and you have a cell spacer, try it again and leave it in there for a little while and see if it clears up for you on its own accord. The second reason why I ran this mid-pipe is because you could see here it's got a bullet style resonator in it, which is not that big, but there is one in it, and I don't want loud. This is my daily driver and I do not want a loud car, so I left it to the stock catback because the muffler is gigantic and it's thick, and I figured it would be pretty quiet. The car doesn't drone at all, which is really nice. It is louder at certain RPMs, like light throttle, when it's cooler, like when the engine's not up to temp. It does kind of have like a little bit of a Civic rasp at one spot in the power band. Very light throttle application, you can get it there. Other than that, it sounds really good. You can cruise it pretty quietly. There's no buzz or anything like that, and then it makes a nice noise at wide open throttle. But now my plans are changed. Like I said, I don't know who makes this mid-pipe, and I'm throwing it away. I obviously wouldn't buy another one because they're clearly cheaply made. I only ran it because I had it. So for exhaust mods, this is a exotic speed header. I went with this header because it has actually pretty nice merge collectors. You could see there. I don't know if you could see anything else. It's really just the one final merge there, but the tubing and the welds, everything's pretty nice on it. It's pretty lightweight, shaves some weight off of the car. So I went with that, and like I said, I just ran this just because, and I left it on because I didn't have any issues up until now. So I went with, kind of reluctantly, to be honest with you, another Racing Bee. I had already bought one of these, and then the guy who bought the silver RX-8, I sold him the resonated mid-pipe as well. The reason why I sold him this is two reasons. One, this is a little bit heavier because it's got bigger resonators. But two, and this is like my big gripe, and I like Racing Bee. So for the record, I like Racing Bee. I run a Racing Bee resonated mid-pipe on my ITB Miata, and that helped a great deal with quieting it down. I run one of their universal resonators in a custom mid-pipe I made for the FD, and I have a Racing Bee dual tip catback, and that is a pretty tame 400 plus wheel horsepower FD. It's actually very quiet. So I think they make some of the best rotary mufflers. They can stand up to the heat, and they do actually a good job of reducing noise. But this is my biggest ding with this, and the reason why I sold the first one is, actually it's gonna be more obvious over here. They make these mid-pipes so you can run them on their aftermarket catback or your stock system, and they pinch these down at the flanges, and it absolutely bothers the shit out of me that they do that. They should offer, I get why they do it from a price standpoint, because a lot of people who buy this probably are just buying this to replace their cat because their cat has failed. So let's talk about that for as another teaching point. My stock cat in this car at 34,000 miles started glowing after beating on it on my ride home. I would catch it, I'd hear it ticking a lot when I'd shut it down. I'd take a peek at it from underneath the car, and I was able to see where the O2 sensor bung was. It would be glowing bright red right there. So if that is happening to your car, it's time to get rid of that cat. Let's be honest here. Rotary engines and catalytic converters just do not go well together. You premix or you inject oil from your crankcase into your combustion area to lubricate the apex seals of the rotary engine, and that coming out of the exhaust does not play nice with the cat, and it clogs them up, and a lot of other serious issues can develop as a result from a clogged cat. Not only can exhaust not escape as fast from the motor, so exhaust gases increase, it increases the likelihood of detonation to occur from the motor. Not to mention, if the cat gets too hot, it can actually catch the car on fire. And it's a real hazard. So for the amount of like rotaries that are actually still running and on the road, the minuscule amount that don't run them with cats anymore, I don't think that that's a big deal, especially with the way everything's going with hybrid and electric car systems. There should be a little bit of leeway for rotaries. In fact, all rotary engines that are still running should just be exempt from emissions altogether, but that's a whole other topic. So be wary of that with your cats. Also, ignition coils failing can increase the likelihood of the cats clogging because your fuel won't be burnt completely as it's leaving the engine. So that's another issue. But yeah, I don't like this. I'm not happy about it, but I'm gonna deal with it for now. And the other thing is that because this is the juiciest resonated mid-pipe on the market for the RX-8, it now opens up the door for me to potentially run an aftermarket catback. I'm probably going to go with the Racing Beat again for the reasons that I said, is that because the mufflers are probably one of the best for a rotary in terms of like noise reduction and everything else. My gripe with the Racing Beat catback is that it is 10 pounds heavier than the stock system, which was one of the other reasons why I left the stock system. It's 40 pounds versus 50 pounds of the Racing Beat. But Racing Beat claims 3.5 horsepower gain with just the catback section of their exhaust, and they talked about how they really spent a great deal of time tuning the exhaust note to be quiet, but like, you know, make a nice noise at wide open throttle, which is exactly what I'm going for with a daily driver. So 3.5 horsepower, if that's actually what you gain, it probably will, especially a little bit more if with the whole system opened up. That will offset the 10 horsepower weight gain. So I guess it's a trade-off that I'm willing to make. Alternatively, pressing buttons on my camera here. Alternatively, I also looked at Tanabe Touring Medallion, which seems like they're more geared towards street-friendly exhausts. If somebody has one, like leave me a message in the comments below or send me a message or something. I'm really curious to hear how they sound, especially with a resonated catless mid-pipe. If there's no drone in that, I would actually entertain buying one of those because I think they are lighter. They talk about how they make like the flanges or the hangers hollow, and they take steps to make them a little bit quieter, but usually that means at the cost of noise reduction. They don't pack the mufflers as much and everything else. So I don't know how good it actually is. And if you have one, do me a favor, take a look inside the exhaust tips and tell me if they reduce it inside there, like built-in silencers. A lot of exhausts that are advertised as bigger, freer flowing, like 70 millimeter to 60 millimeters, which is kind of ideal for an RX-8. So it's 70 on the primary pipe, 60 at the Y, out the two mufflers, 60 millimeter for each muffler section. If they reduce it inside the tip, like a built-in like kind of silencer, that's no good either for flow. It just kind of is corking it up at the end. So let me know if you have any experience with that. I greatly appreciate it. But otherwise, I'm probably just going to go with a Racing Beat. I did order one at the time with this mid-pipe, but they canceled the order because they're on back order right now until September. So I'm just gonna run the mid-pipe for now, and we'll see how it does. And then after this, I have a lightweight pulley install, and then we'll go with the dyno. Oh, and I should add one more thing. I'm not concerned about this Racing Beat mid-pipe throwing a check engine light. There is no cell spacer on this, so it's probably gonna throw a check engine light, but I am running Mazda Edit now, so I could just take that out. So to get into the install here, I already wiped this down with isopropyl alcohol just to get any of the residual oils and grease off of it. It was obviously handled by somebody's hands because you can see fingerprints and stuff on it. So I always found that wiping down stainless steel with either a degreaser or isopropyl alcohol before you put it through its initial heat cycle kind of helps it color more uniformly. If there's heavy oils from your fingers, notice how I'm wearing latex gloves. I have not touched this with my bare hands. If you have oils from your fingers and stuff that get on here for the first heat cycle, they tend to discolor those areas darker and it just looks poopier. It's inevitably going to happen because that's just kind of a characteristic of stainless steel. But you could see here, like with my header, I took those steps and you can see it's colored not too bad, and it looks pretty still. And this has been on the car for a good, I think almost 10,000 miles now. It's got some time. It's a little bit dirty underneath, but overall there's no like real dark poopy spots on it. So to get into the installation, it's going to be pretty quick and easy. We're going to disconnect our secondary O2 sensor right here. 3 bolts for the back flange. 2 braces here. I think these are 12 millimeter headed. I'm pretty sure they're 12 millimeter. So we're going to take the brace down, and then rear hanger for the mid pipe and 2 bolts at the back. So let's dive into it. All right guys, so that was relatively painless. Here is the mid pipe removed. So, take a look at what we're dealing with here. You could better see where this ripped. This could be repaired. If somebody actually wants this mid pipe in your local, shoot me a message. You could just come by and take it. I don't really want it. I'm gonna go with the 2C resonators. I figure if I ever got really crazy with this down the road, I could chop these flanges off and put slightly bigger ones. How much power is actually on the table from this? I don't know. Maybe 1 or 2 horsepower. But again, going back to, these are much juicier resonators than that. So this gives me the ability to run a full free-flowing catback to complete the whole exhaust. So this is probably still better off than that versus the stock, with the stock catback on it. So before I put these on, I'm gonna get you guys some weights just to kind of get an idea. That is definitely very light, heaviest, but I'll get you the exact numbers in 2 seconds. All right guys, so the weights are in. This guy right here weighs a whopping 9 pounds. I don't even know if there's resonator material in here. It's pretty hollow sounding. It's pretty light. But again, the car with the stock catback was actually really quiet with that. So 9 pounds. Racing Beat is a hefty fat 17 pounds. And this guy is 24 pounds. So those are the weights. We're adding a little bit of weight back into the car, which sucks. I hate adding weight. I'd rather subtract wherever I can. I guess I'll just have to eat a lot of flaxseed or something and take a big dump before I drive this car competitively. Just kidding, it's my daily. What do I care? What do I care, really? So let's put the Racing Beat in. The other thing I want to make note of is that the front uses a little crush type donut gasket. I have a pretty juicy one in here that came with the header, and it's not crushed all the way, as you can see. So I'm just gonna rerun this because it actually looks like it's in pretty good shape. And in the rear uses a donut gasket, which you can reuse, most likely reuse your factory one as long as this thing's not too beat up. So that's what we're gonna do. guys, so that is it for this one. Like I said, help me pick what catback I should run on this, either Racing Beat or Tanabe Touring Medallion, or an alternative if you have one. The key is 70mm to 60mm split, and as quiet and as drone free as possible. Anybody wants that mid-pipe, come and get it, just let me know. And I think that's it for this one. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. Oh, before I forget, I'll leave you guys with a sound comparison of the old mid-pipe versus the new one. I bet you it's gonna be a lot quieter. It has to be quieter. It's a lot juicier. So that's it for this one, guys. Till next time,